everyone. Welcome to the Made Fits Show. So, this kind of episode is something that I would look for if I was searching podcasts because I would find it so interesting, and I hope you do as well. What I want to do today is to take common terms that we hear and even terms that people misrepresent or put fear-mongering behind. We get so confused. Let me give you some examples, like soluble and insoluble fiber. Do you know that there's a difference? Do you know that they do different things? We're going to talk about raw, pasture, and ultra pasteurized milk, right? You hear from one person how good raw is, and you hear from other people how important pasteurized is. You're like, I don't understand what's good for me and which one I should choose. I know you've heard of oxalates and phytic acid. People will fearmonger, fruits and vegetables because they do contain these compounds, and it's kind of silly to me. And then resistant starch, right? That's kind of popular these days. What is resistant starch? Is it good for me? Is it something I should incorporate in my diet? So did my homework. I tried to think to myself, if I didn't know what these were, what questions would I want to ask someone who did know? And so I just kind of have a list of kind of a definition of what these are, where you find them, their benefits, and if there's any kind of setbacks or drawbacks. And I hope you leave this podcast going, okay, I'm pretty confident with resistant starch, my fibers, my milks, and these things that people talk about, oxalates and phytic acid. So you ready? Let's learn and make you a very educated person. So when you're sitting at the table or you're on social media, and in a very kind way, right? We're never mean to people, but in a very kind way, someone talks about how bad oxalates are. And you're like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Did you know if you did this, they're really not a big deal. That's what I want you to take away from this. I want you to feel educated and empowered, and hopefully able to help somebody else understand it a little bit better. So the first thing we're going to talk about, of course, are fibers. So fibers really, really important. And I think right now we do always have two schools of thought, where one, school will tell you, you don't need fiber per se. These are, more the carnivore type people, and you've got the opposite end of the spectrum, especially, the vegans. And the plant-based people that will tell you how important fiber is. I'm here to tell you, I believe fiber is very important. But we have soluble and we have insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber dissolves in water, and it forms like this gel-like substance. It's found in foods like oats, beans, apples, citrus fruits, psyllium, and carrots. Now, when you eat soluble fiber, it forms a gel in the digestive tract, and it can help lower cholesterol. It helps slow down digestion and can help manage blood sugar levels. Slow down digestion. So people who have really quick moving bowels or diarrhea feel like they need to hide away from fiber, but soluble fiber can help you bulk up your stool a little bit and can help slow that process down a little bit. It can also help you feel fuller longer, which may assist with weight management. And soluble fiber also helps you feel fuller longer, okay? So it's really important that you include it in your diet, especially if you're on a weight loss journey, because nobody wants to feel hungry. And soluble fiber, out of the two, does a great job of making you feel full for almost pretty instantly and for a longer amount of time, because it does slow down the digestive process, okay? On the other hand, insoluble fiber, it doesn't dissolve in water. Instead, it adds bulk to your stool and helps move food through your digestive system, and it prevents constipation. So did you know this? Soluble fiber is more for the people who have the looser stools, where insoluble fiber is really going to help those people who tend to be constipated. You can find insoluble fiber in foods like whole grains, nuts, seeds, and vegetables like cauliflower, green beans, which I love, celery, and potatoes. Now, insoluble fiber can help keep the digestive tract healthy by adding bulk to the stool, and can help prevent digestive disorders like cut diverticulosis. I always have trouble with that word. And it's funny because whenever my clients have it, they can just rattle it off their tongue because they hear it so often. It's a tough word. Both of these fibers are important for healthy eating. Eating a variety of fiber-rich foods ensures that you get the benefits of both the soluble and insoluble fiber. So you're going to hear me say this when I talk about every single one of these topics. Variety is the spice of life. It is so important that you don't eat the same foods over and over again. You have to get both the soluble and the insoluble fiber. Now, you might need more of one than the other, depending on your bowels, but both are beneficial for you. And if you can get them both in your diet, you may be a 50-50 kind of gal. You might have to be a 90-10 or a 75-25 when it comes to the two different types of fiber. But generally speaking, for the healthy individual, you want both of these fibers in your diet, okay? How about we move on to milk? So I don't really drink milk anymore, to be honest. I drank it a lot as a child, loved it. And now I actually like almond milk, cold almond milk. If I eat cereal, I like almond milk. I don't know why. I just like it better. Maybe because it's a little more watery. I grew up in the era of skim milk was king, right? And it's funny, Mick, my husband, is whole milk all day long. He likes it thick, almost like melted ice cream, where I always liked it really thin. So for me, that's why I think I like almond milk, is because it's just such a thin texture. But I did grow up with it. And I will throw the caveat out there that, you know, as we age, our ability to break down lactose becomes a little more difficult. And it's more difficult for some people than it is other people. So you may not be able to have, you know, milk at all, or you have to take, you know, lactate or some type of enzyme to help break down the lactose if you have it. But some people still do pretty good with milk. And that's why I want to share this. Again, you've got pretty much two schools of thought. People who tell you should have raw milk because it's more nutritious, and people tell you should have pasteurized or ultra pasteurized because it's more safe for you. And I believe, again, I really seem to be dividing these two up, but more of the carnivore lifestyle, the more meat-based people, or the real, my daughter's one of these, just the more natural, the better. And so I know she's gotten raw milk before. I have, before I even talk about these, I have to be honest, I would be nervous with raw milk. Just personal, I'd be a little nervous drinking it unless I watched it come out of a very healthy dairy cow and somebody else drink it first. I might try it, but other than that, it makes me a little bit nervous. But the more natural carnivore-ish type people tend to like that raw, where the more conservative medical educated people will tell you don't have raw milk. But I thought these were interesting when it came to each type of milk, and that way you can kind of make your own decision based on what you hear. So with raw milk, the heat treatment is none, because it's coming straight from the cow. So there's no kind of heating that goes on whatsoever. The shelf life is short. It's typically 1 to 2 weeks. The taste may have a more natural, slightly different taste than the milk that you probably grew up on. And its nutritional impact, it contains natural enzymes and probiotics, but these benefits sometimes will overshadow its potential health risks. There are health risks because there are some bacteria that can be in that raw milk. So it does seem to have more nutrition, but it also has the risk of causing you to get sick, okay? So pasteurized milk, the heat treatment, it's heated to about 161 degrees for about 15 seconds. Its shelf life is about 2 to 3 weeks, and the taste is slightly altered compared to raw milk. It's, from what I hear, is it's just less intense. It's a little bit smoother, you know, less. Oh, I don't want to say bitey because there's no bite to raw milk from what I hear, but it's very, it's stronger. It's like, you know, hard liquor versus, you know, a mixed drink. It's just that there's that stronger taste. The nutritional impact of pasteurized milk: some heat sensitive vitamins and enzymes are reduced, but most nutrients are retained in pasteurized milk, okay? Ultra pasteurized milk. Did you know there were two, pasteurized and ultra pasteurized? And the reason I learned about this is because in Mexico, where I live part-time, all of the milk is on a shelf. And it sits there a very long time. You can pick up a carton of milk and it is coated in dust. It's crazy, totally different world. That's ultra pasteurized milk. Pasteurized milk you will normally see in the refrigerator. Ultra pasteurized is usually sitting on a shelf. And its heat treatment is 280 degrees versus 161, but it's only for 2 seconds. But it is heated pretty high, 280 degrees Fahrenheit, for it to kill germs. We'll just use elementary terms, germs, but it's just for 2 seconds. The shelf life is several weeks to months. So it's great for anything coming up in the world where we need to stock a lot of stuff. Ultra pasteurized milk is a really good thing to have. The taste can be slightly, is slightly cooked or different from pasteurized milk. So again, the ultra pasteurized milk, when we do get it in Mexico, and I do use it if I don't have that almond milk handy, does have a more dull taste than pasteurized. And then from what I hear, especially compared to raw milk. So, I guess the more something is tampered with, quote unquote, tampered with, the less taste that it has, which makes sense. If you eat a raw carrot versus boiling a carrot, there's a lot less taste. The nutritional impact. So there's minimal nutrition lost compared to pasteurized milk, though some degradation occurs. So it's going to have just a little less nutrients than the pasteurized. The pasteurized is going to have just a little bit less nutrients than the raw milk. But then again, you've got risks with each one. Obviously, ultra pasteurized milk is probably the lowest risk for getting sick, and then pasteurized, and then you've got that raw. Okay, so would you try raw milk? I would love to know. Let me know. Or if you do drink it, set my mind at ease. If you are someone who, because I know it's illegal in a lot of areas, but if it's not, or you own a farm, you have dairy cattle, please let me come visit them and educate me more on it, on your personal experience with raw milk. I would love to hear that. Always open-minded about it. It's, again, living in Mexico, I'm very cautious about where I get sashimi. Not at an all-inclusive resort. I would not eat ceviche, or I wouldn't get sashimi, but at some restaurants that I know very well, or these little tiny holes in the wall where you'd be like, I don't know. But I've eaten there enough to trust and gotten to know the owners and the staff, and I trust that it's very fresh. But at an all-inclusive resort, you're not going to get me to eat raw fish. So milk is the same way. I guess it depends on where it comes from and all that. So I would love your opinion. The next thing I would like to talk about is resistant starches. So these have become really popular lately. The definition is resistant starches are a type of carbohydrate that resist digestion in the small intestine and reach the colon largely intact. They are classified into 4 types, and each one has its own benefits. So did you know there are 4 types of resistant starch? A lot of people don't know that. I'm going to go through each one really quick, and then I'm going to tell you the benefits. So you don't have to there's no quiz, there's no test afterwards, but I do find this fascinating and thought you would as well. First is type 1, which is whole grains, seeds, legumes, and its benefits are to improve gut health by acting as a prebiotic. It enhances overall digestive health. Now, the effectiveness of type 1 is it's good for general gut health and dietary fiber intake. Consistent inclusion in the diet can be beneficial. So having your grains, having your seeds, having your legumes in moderation, a couple times a week is going to be a type of resistant starch, type 1, and it's very good for the gut because it acts as a prebiotic. Prebiotics feed those probiotics, okay? Type 2. Type 2 is raw potatoes and green bananas. Yeah, there's people out there that eat that. The benefits are slow digestion, and it can improve blood sugar control. It also promotes healthy gut bacteria. So they're very good for you. So start eating your raw potatoes and your green bananas. Consuming raw potatoes isn't really practical. So green bananas might be a more convenient source. And I kind of like, I like my bananas a little more on the quote unquote raw or the green side than the cooked or the very ripened side, me personally. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with green bananas, as you would say them. Can I say greenish? Is that a thing? Greenish bananas, maybe green and yellow. There's still going to be benefits compared to if they get really super yellow and brown, that's when you make banana pancakes or banana bread with them. Try to eat them as green as you can, so you get that type 2 resistant starch. Type 3 a source is when it's cooked and then cooled potatoes, rice, and pasta. So type 3 is what you're hearing about, everybody talking about, and making your potatoes, your rice, and your pasta, and then putting it in the fridge and keeping it cold. Okay, you can't reheat it. You undo most of the goodness by reheating it. So you have to be okay with having it cold or room temperature and not reheating it. Now, the benefits provide prebiotic effects and helps with blood sugar regulation. It's often considered very effective due to its availability in common foods. The cooling process enhances the resistant starch content. So, and it's 100 degrees everywhere right now. So that sounds pretty good. In the wintertime might be a little bit tougher to have those comfort foods cold. But if you start now and just really get used to having, like a cold, partial pieces of cold potato or sweet potato in the morning, with your breakfast, instead of heating it up, by wintertime, you might be used to it. Now, type 4 is a chemically modified starch in processed foods. So if you think modified cornstarch or modified tapioca starch, so you see those a lot in ingredients, and it is a form of resistant starch. It's used to enhance texture and shelf life in processed foods. So it's more beneficial in a controlled process context, but not generally a focus for natural dietary improvements. So you don't have to go eat modified cornstarch or modified tapioca starch to be getting the benefits of resistant starch. Grab yourself a green potato or your whole grains, your legumes, or heat up your potatoes and pasta and rice and then cool them down. You don't have to have, are you looking at this? Are you imagining the same yellow box? Your mom probably had that yellow cardboard box that was cornstarch, and it had a picture of corn on it. I think even today, I probably have it in my pantry. We all have cornstarch, modified cornstarch. You don't need to take that as a supplement. Have a cold potato instead. So which one is most effective for what? So for gut health, type 1 and type 2 are very effective. Type 1 is good for regulating fiber intake, while type 2 is beneficial for targeted blood sugar control. Okay, so remember that type 1 was whole grains, seeds, and legumes. Type 2 was the raw potatoes and the green bananas. So think to yourself, green bananas or the grain, seeds, and legumes for your fiber, and then the green bananas, which is going to be really good for gut health, okay, and blood sugar control. For specific blood sugar control, type 2 and type 3 are particularly effective. Type 2 helps directly with glucose absorption. So you have the green banana, it's going to help with that glucose absorption, while type 3, when used in the right amounts, also supports better blood sugar management. So 3 was the cooked, which is what you really hear it for. People are getting pretty crazy with calories and not taking the calories out of rice. If you make it a resistant starch, that's really far-fetched. But it really is beneficial for blood sugar control. So for those of you that have metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, resistant starch is definitely your friend. Now, the best type for you may depend on your specific health goals and how your body reacts to different sources of resistant starch, incorporating a variety of sources can help maximize the overall benefit. So here I am telling you again, type 1, which are your fibrous, mostly your fibrous, grains, your seeds, your legumes, green bananas. If you like them super yellow, just slowly try to ease yourself into having them a little bit more on the green side. Your cooked and then cooled potatoes, rice, and pasta. And then the resistant starch is something like modified cornstarch, but not anything that you're like, okay, I'm going to start having a teaspoon of cornstarch in my water every day. No, don't have to do that. But it is a type of resistant starch, and I wanted you to be educated on that. So the last area I want to talk about are our oxalates and our phytic acid. Ooh. Oh, we hear a lot about that. So the definition of oxalates, they're naturally occurring compounds found in many foods. They can bind to minerals like calcium and form insoluble compounds. So you're going to find oxalates. You can probably recite this with me: spinach, rhubarb, beets, some nuts and seeds, and then even some teas. Now, the potential issue with oxalates is that in high amounts, oxalates can contribute to kidney stones, especially in people who are prone to them. So let's just go back and say that you put, you take the whole bag of spinach and you wilt it down to, a lump every single day. You have beets. There's even a beet supplement. You have beets, in your smoothie. You have nuts and seeds as a snack every single day, and you drink a couple cups of tea every single day. You're a little bit more prone to oxalates. But if you look at foods, and this is where Google is your friend, you look for foods that are high in oxalates, and just look at the list and look and say, oh my gosh, I eat an awful lot, a lot of this. Pull back a little bit. Have a huge variety, and you never have to worry about something specific like oxalates because they're so minute in a serving. And if you're doing a really good job of eating a variety of colors of fruits and vegetables and different types of proteins and all your different types of fats, it is absolutely not a problem, okay? It is not harmful to the everyday human that eats just a healthy diet. There's so many good things in these foods, so many good things that 10 times outweigh the little tiny bit of oxalates. It's just when you overdo one food. And times are tough, I know, and it's better to buy in bulk, but freeze or share with the family or go shopping with a friend and you guys split, the huge bag of spinach instead of you trying to eat that whole thing before it goes bad because groceries are expensive and you don't want to waste food. So you see where I'm going with that. You can minimize the effects of even just a little bit of oxalates that you have by drinking plenty of water to help flush them out. And then, of course, just to eat that balanced diet. You just want to avoid eating too much of one thing, no matter what. There's different vitamins and minerals in every single food that you eat, and a lot of them support one another. So you want to eat things together because the vitamins and minerals in one certain food, especially like your vegetables with a protein, they really complement each other, which is why I believe we should be omnivores. They really support each other. And you want to mix it up constantly, making sure you're getting all your B vitamins and all of your minerals and all of these, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, all that stuff. But you have to have a variety, and you can't just keep eating the same thing over and over again, oxalate or not. It's just not good for you to be eating the same foods over and over again, okay? Phytic acid. What's phytic acid? Phytic acid is a form of phosphorus found in plant seeds. It can bind to minerals like iron, zinc, and calcium, making them less available for absorption. So you can find them in whole grains like wheat and rice, legumes like beans and lentils, nuts, and seeds. So they can reduce the absorption of certain minerals, which might affect people with mineral deficiencies. So if you are zinc deficient, or anemic and you're low in iron and you are eating whole grains for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you might want to pull back a little bit, and just have grains once a day, not 3 times a day. I mean, it's as simple as that. But it's really not harmful for people that eat a balanced diet. Just as important as your calories just as important as your steps, how many hours of rest you get, how many ounces of water you drink, is looking at your food and how much variety of food are you getting. Oh, I really wish people would just start there instead of worrying about their protein intake and their macros, and even their calorie intake, but just to look down at their plate and go, oh, Mother Nature would be so proud of me right now. I would make her so proud. This is abundance. And look at all the colors and the textures and the smells and the tastes, and just enjoy all of the variety that you have out there to eat instead of eating the same things over and over again. You can soak and you can sprout, these seeds, these nuts, to help with the phytic acid, and then just eat that variety. So both oxalates and phytic acid are naturally occurring and generally not harmful for most people when consumed in moderation. For those with specific health concerns, certain dietary practices can help manage their effects. So, you don't have anything that somebody specifically has told you need to avoid, food with oxalates or phytic acid. Think for it. There's so many, again, even these foods that have them in it are good for you. They're good for you, just not in abundance. But nothing is. So if you eat, the scary thing is that people will say on social media, they'll talk about oxalates, they'll talk about phytic acid and how that's in vegetables. They're so generic about it. And so then people are like, okay, I'm not, I don't want to be mineral deficient, so I'm not going to eat vegetables anymore. They're not good for me. These plants are trying to kill me. No, they're not. They're so good for you. They're so good for you. Just eat in a balance for me. Eat in a balance and you will do just fine. So how do you feel? Do you feel super smart knowing about resistant starch, your oxalates, your phytic acid, your fiber soluble and insoluble? Quiz. Which fiber would you take if you suffered from constipation? Which would be your focus? Soluble fiber, right? So anyway, I hope that was really helpful. These terms get thrown around all the time. And when we learn from someone who learned from somebody who learned from somebody, and not learned from textbooks, this is textbook stuff, then we get a little confused, and I don't want you to be confused. So I hope this was helpful. Please tell me if you are a raw milk drinker, share with me your experience, or if you've been using resistant starch, just share with me all of your stuff, because I love to hear about it, and then I love to share what I hear. So always keep in mind, with Dr. Lauren and I, these podcasts, we would love for them to be interactive. We would love to hear your take, love to hear what you learned. If you have a question, but I didn't quite understand that, can you explain it more? We are here for you. It's not a one-way conversation. We just start the conversation, if that makes sense. Okay, we start the conversation, now it's your turn. So we'd love to hear from you. And as always, I hope you wake up feeling prepared. You go to bed feeling super proud. Have a great day.
Wow, we've reached the end, but before we leave you, we'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion, and to us, your opinion does matter.
Now, the content in this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Share this episode with anyone you think needs to hear this message. And please remember to do your part of the bargain by rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you listen to the Made Fits show.
We are Melissa and Dr. Fitz, and until next time, thank you for your time, support, and action you take in your own health journey. You get one life. Let's live it abundantly together.